But then we noticed to fight against the system doesn't help. So there is something to discover inside of ourselves, in the inner wisdom of human beings. We have to see that there is a trauma which brought us to follow the sense of fear, and we have to shift this trauma point to a new kind of trust to life. And of course, there we are also called to face death. I think in our culture, we don't face the reality that we are born and that we will die. And normally, it would be a very natural thing. We would prepare ourselves, we would connect. And to overcoming the thinking of enemy, this is really, really deep. So it's in our garden work the same, that we kill the animals which eat our plants. But is there not another way of balancing, of cooperation? This for us is the research where we are in, between human beings as well, everywhere. So I think to mention one point which was very important for us was the relation of love and sexuality. Mm-hmm. Because there is a point where there is so much mistrust between human beings. Yes. Because of the culture where we are living in. And the first years, we had to do a lot of work to bring transparency to these issues and to develop a real trust in this issue. And I like to compare it with the water situation of the earth. So what have we done with the errors? If you look at the television, there is always, you see these beautiful women and then smoke camel or drink Coca-Cola. But there is no society where you can really follow the inner law of eros with trust. And so we women, we are so hurt from the last centuries, from the Inquisition, all of this, so that there is such a deep mistrust between men and women. But if you look back to matriarchal cultures, their women were very erotic beings, and they had a very clear relationship to the masculine energy. Yeah? And they did not only have partnership, the eros were allowed at so many different areas. And so it is, I like to say, we have done with the rivers, we have done with the eros the same like with the rivers. We allowed them only to flow in this direction. And at other points, it's not allowed. And so we face so much violence in our culture because of the suppressed eros. And so people say eros is violent, but this is not true. Eros itself is like the water, a purification, a cleaning, a healthy energy, if we treat it in the right way. Mm-hmm. And this was a very important work in our community. And now we developed something what we call a love school, where, for example, the young children first are in contact with the plants. They can learn to incarnate themselves in the contact with the plants. If they grow up a bit, the animals are the teachers for them. And then if they become older, the eros enters the life, and they need persons who show them this is a divine energy, and you can learn with it to deal with it in a trustful way. If I in my youth would have love teachers, so many difficulties, so much pain would not have. Yes, I think as humanity we are now in a very crucial moment, and I think the story of Corona is really showing us that we are only one humanity, that we see we are one. We never had this. And I asked myself, how was it possible that in such a quick time, everybody followed the new orders, and it showed in a certain way unity. And now we have to look, do we follow the unity of fear, or do we hear the message? Because if we look to this virus as an enemy, we will create societies of dictatorship, of less and less transparency, less and less diversity. But if we see the message of the virus, then he shows us, look, you followed so long time now in your societies the hypnosis of fear. But now look what happens to the earth if suddenly everything calms down, if there is silence. And there is such a release to many beings on this globe. And now we human, are we awakening or not? This for me is the question of Corona. And are we ready to integrate the message of the virus instead of putting masks? Are we seeing that we are putting masks the whole time in our life, and that now we could really show our real face? And do we believe that we show our real face, that in the deepest there is a divine power inside of us? So there is a deep learning we are in. And
it's a deep process, and it can be really awakening. I absolutely understand, and I'm absolutely with you. We see that we can unite, but we could unite on another level. We could unite on at least on a level of compassion. If it's not already possible to connect on a level of love, still can try on compassion and understanding.
Yes. That's the message. So let's do the best